so breaking news. Again, Ben reacts. Justin Trudeau has now stepped down as the leader of the Liberal Party in Canada. Now, he's been authoritarian with regard to economics. He wants higher taxes. He wants higher spending. He's been awful on immigration. Immigration has been the driver of so much discontent in the West. The Liberals would be reduced from their current 153 seats all the way down to 44 seats. That is how bad Justin Trudeau has been.
Have you ever imagined living in a world where political leaders face immense scrutiny for their decisions and legacies? Well, Ben Shapiro, a well-known political commentator recognized for his sharp analysis and fact-based arguments, has shared his thoughts on Justin Trudeau stepping down as the leader of the Liberal Party, though he remains Canada's Prime Minister in a caretaker capacity for now. Today, we're diving into the very moment when Shapiro delivered a sharp critique of Trudeau's decision, examining its implications for Canadian politics and the legacy of one of the most polarizing figures in recent history.
Basically, until there's a vote of no confidence held and a new election is held, only after a new election would presumably Justin Trudeau be replaced as Prime Minister. Now, if somebody were to replace him as head of the Liberal Party, before that, theoretically, that person would then be slotted in as Prime Minister, but he has not actually resigned as Prime Minister. If he did that, that would presumably trigger a new election in Canada.
Ben begins by explaining the political mechanics behind Trudeau's move. Stepping down as party leader doesn't mean Trudeau has resigned as Prime Minister. Instead, he serves as a caretaker until a new leader is chosen or an election is held.
An opposition could trigger a no-confidence vote based on Trudeau stepping down. They could say, listen, this is all ridiculous. We all know that Trudeau should not be the Prime Minister. The Liberal Party knows it. We know it. Everybody knows it. The problem is they've tried several times. The Conservative Party, which is currently polling extremely well, led by Pierre Poilievre.
This situation is similar to Joe Biden announcing he wouldn't run for re-election, but staying on as president. In Canada's parliamentary system, a new election can only happen if there's a no-confidence vote, or if Trudeau completely steps down as Prime Minister. Until then, he remains in his role, though with less authority.
That election, however, is not slated to take place all the way until October. If they were to have a vote of no confidence, they would require the help of some members of parties who are outside the Liberal Party. So right now, the constituency, I'm just checking the numbers here, there are 338 seats in the House of Commons in Canada. Of those 338 seats, 153 are held by Justin Trudeau's party. So that's short of a majority. You need a majority in order to prevent a vote of no confidence, which means that it's being held up from the outside right now by the Bloc Québécois, right, the Quebecers, and the New Democratic Party, which is a far-left party, as well as the Green Party has a couple of seats.
Shapiro highlights how Trudeau's resignation as party leader was likely an acknowledgement of his unpopularity. Polls show Trudeau's Liberal Party trailing far behind the opposition Conservatives, led by Pierre Poilievre, who Shapiro describes as a rising Conservative star.
That is presumably because they are afraid that they will lose seats to the Conservative Party in Canada. Regardless whether the election happens now or whether it happens in October, however, the chances are very strong that the next Prime Minister of Canada is going to be Poilievre.
Poilievre has consistently outperformed Trudeau in recent polling, suggesting that a Conservative landslide is almost inevitable in the next election, currently scheduled for October.
Now, the reason for all of this is that Justin Trudeau's been an awful prime minister, like a terrible, terrible prime minister on everything, from foreign policy to domestic policy. You'll recall his attempt to shut down the truckers because the truckers said they didn't want to get vaxxed.
Ben argues that Trudeau's leadership has been disastrous across multiple fronts, making him a deeply unpopular figure in Canada. Trudeau's handling of the Freedom Convoy protests in early 2022, where truckers opposed vaccine mandates, marked a turning point in his political decline.
And so he decided that he was basically going to punish all of them, and so they shut down major cities. That was all because of his authoritarian viewpoints with regard to the vaccines. He's been authoritarian with regard to economics. He wants higher taxes. He wants higher spending. He's been awful on immigration. Immigration has been the driver of so much discontent.
Shapiro also takes aim at Trudeau's economic policies, calling them a recipe for disaster. High taxes, excessive government spending, and restrictive regulations have stifled economic growth and increased the cost of living. Housing costs, in particular, have skyrocketed under Trudeau's leadership due to strict land use policies that discourage development.
Because, of course, Western culture is bad, and Western culture is wrong, and Western culture bears blood guilt for the situation all across the rest of the world. That is sort of a viewpoint of Justin Trudeau's. Also, Justin Trudeau has been awful on everything from rents in Canada to energy in Canada. He has been a big advocate, for example, of sort of Green New Deal policies in Canada, which has sent energy prices skyrocketing.
On immigration, Shapiro highlights how Trudeau's open border policies have fueled discontent in Canada, mirroring trends in other Western nations. Mass migration without proper assimilation, Shapiro argues, has led to cultural clashes and strained public services.
It's mass migration that has been happening that has affected the United States. The open borders policies of Joe Biden led to the rise of Donald Trump again. By the way, it was open borders policies under Barack Obama that led to the rise of Donald Trump in the first place. You're now seeing a massive shift away from Keir Starmer in the UK because of his warm viewpoints on migration and mass migration. In Germany, you're starting to see AfD, a right-wing party, starting to gain serious numbers because of the mass migration problems in Germany.
He draws parallels to similar issues in the United States, the United Kingdom, Germany, and France, where public backlash against uncontrolled immigration has boosted right-wing parties. Trudeau's environmental policies also come under fire. Shapiro criticizes Trudeau's Green New Deal-style initiatives, which have driven up energy prices while delivering negligible environmental benefits.
We got a lot of dirt in Canada. Have you ever seen a map of Canada? Pretty much everybody lives along the border with the United States in a few discrete areas, but it's a giant country. It should be able to facilitate more building. People should be able to build much more easily in Canada, and that's something that Poilievre has pledged that he is going to do.
These policies, Shapiro argues, have hurt everyday Canadians by making basic necessities like heating and transportation more expensive. Meanwhile, Trudeau's focus on cultural and social issues, such as Indigenous rights and LGBTQ+ advocacy, has done little to address the economic struggles faced by most Canadians.
Now, the media have been upholding Trudeau on the basis of his sort of cultural leftism for a very long time. Trudeau is very much to the left on every cultural issue, ranging from LGBT to Native American rights, Indigenous people's rights. All this kind of stuff is stuff that Trudeau has spoken routinely about. But the thing he doesn't seem to care very much about are Canadians and the plight of everyday Canadians, which is why in the opinion polling, he's getting absolutely crushed right now. The polls for Trudeau were brutal.
Ben notes that even members of Trudeau's own party have turned against him, recognizing that his leadership has become a liability. Internal pressure likely contributed to Trudeau's decision to step down as Liberal Party leader.
So this is why even members of his own party were calling for Trudeau to step down, because they're saying, listen, if we look at what the next election looks like with Trudeau at the top of the ticket, he's getting his ass kicked.
Shapiro points to polling data showing the Conservatives poised to win a commanding majority in the next election, with projections giving them 227 seats, far above the 172 needed for a majority. In contrast, the Liberals are expected to be reduced to just 44 seats, marking a dramatic fall from their current standing.
The latest poll tracker shows Poilievre at 44.2%, Justin Trudeau at 20.1%. 20.1. That is a brutal fall off. Remember, right now, again, the Liberal Party controls almost half of Parliament. This would have them at less than 1/4 of Parliament.
Shapiro describes Poilievre as a principled and articulate advocate for conservative values, likening him to other rising right-wing leaders worldwide, such as Javier Milei in Argentina and Giorgia Meloni in Italy.
Right now, if you were to look at how many seats the parties would be projected to win, right now the Conservative Party would be projected to win 227 seats, an outright majority. That would be the reason, by the way, why the New Democrat Party, which is polling much better than they currently hold in Parliament, this is the reason why they might oppose a vote of no confidence.
The media's role in propping up Trudeau's image also comes under scrutiny. Shapiro argues that Canadian media outlets have long shielded Trudeau from criticism, focusing on his progressive credentials while downplaying his policy failures. However, even the media can't ignore the stark reality of Trudeau's plummeting approval ratings, which have forced the Liberal Party to confront the possibility of electoral annihilation.
Meanwhile, the New Democrat Party, which currently holds some seats, but not a ton of seats. They're picking up a lot of the seats from Trudeau. So maybe Liberals are sort of hoping that if they supplant Trudeau with somebody else, then they will gain back some of the seats from the New Democrat Party. And Jagmeet Singh, who is the head of the New Democrat Party, the Bloc Québécois, currently is picking up a little bit. They're like 8.5%. The Green Party is still very small, and the People's Party is even smaller than that.
Shapiro outlines the broader implications of Trudeau's downfall for Canada and the world. He argues that Trudeau's time in office, defined by extreme progressive policies and poor economic management, acts as a warning for other countries facing similar issues. Shapiro believes that Trudeau's decline reflects a growing global backlash against the left's cultural and economic agenda.
If, however, the election were to go the way it seems to be going right now, then the likely outcome would be Poilievre with an absolute sheer outright large majority in Parliament. Remember, it takes 172 seats to actually have a majority in the House of Commons in Canada.
As Shapiro delves deeper into Trudeau's legacy, he notes that the Prime Minister's relationship with the United States has also been fraught with challenges. Former President Donald Trump openly mocked Trudeau, calling him the governor of the 51st state, and suggesting that Canada might be better off as part of the United States. While Shapiro calls such comments exaggerated, he emphasizes the tension in the US-Canada relations during Trudeau's time in office.
The Liberals would be reduced from their current 153 seats all the way down to 44 seats. That is how bad Justin Trudeau has been. Bloc Québécois would actually be the third largest party. At 41 seats, the New Democrat Party would be stuck at 29 seats.
Trudeau's inability to navigate these challenges, combined with his domestic policy failures, has left Canada at a crossroads. Shapiro believes that Trudeau's resignation as party leader is just the beginning of a broader political realignment in Canada. The rise of Poilievre and the Conservatives signals a rejection of Trudeau's legacy and a return to common-sense governance.
And if you look at how this breaks down across the country, the Conservatives lead in virtually every province in Canada except for Quebec. Quebec, obviously, the Bloc Québécois still has a plurality, but literally every other area of the country. And it was still a relatively narrow lead for the Conservatives all the way up until about June 2023. At that point, the two parties just diverge. The Conservatives really start to take off. The Liberals really start to decline. Again, Justin Trudeau has been an awful prime minister, and the fact that he has lasted as long as he has is simply because of the system itself.
And there you have it. The moment Ben Shapiro frames Trudeau's resignation as a defining turning point for Canada. Highlighting the fallout of progressive policies, he points to the economic struggles, cultural divides, and political instability that have left the Liberal Party in chaos. Will this mark the beginning of a conservative resurgence, or just another shift in Canada's political landscape? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more thought-provoking content on today's most pressing issues.